It is your prisonplanet.tv memberships that fund so much of what we do here on this operation. And then we're more than happy for the TV show after it's aired live, then be leaked out onto the web to tens of millions of people. That's our goal. Thank you for joining us for another worldwide transmission against tyranny as we attempt to awaken our fellow humans to the out-of-control corruption running rampant across the globe. We're going to be here for the next 3 hours. We have Representative Marsha Blackburn joining us, coming up in about an hour and a half, to break down the fact that the TSA is absolutely out of control. And she's introduced legislation to point out they have to stop calling themselves officers when they're not even sworn or trained or deputized. They are a fraud out of their jurisdiction. Of course, it's already illegal. I don't know why we need more bills, but I guess people in government see it as if executive power just does something that violates laws, you pass a new law, even though it's already violating a bunch of laws, and somehow that's going to stop it. It's kind of like the TSA in Texas last year, groping members of the legislature, so they unanimously in the House voted to start arresting them when they violated the law, groping people. They didn't need to pass a new law, but they were trying to, and the feds threatened an armed blockade with F-16s of the state, and the state said, oh my gosh, well, we'll just roll over in fear. Just like the blackmailed, compromised Congress basically does the same thing. Coming up, we've got a clip of DNC chair says non-compliance with Obamacare will not be tolerated. Some amazing quotes where they say we're not going to tolerate it any more in America. You have to be responsible, and you have to pay a penalty if you choose not to be. You know, all the big banks and mega rich are exempt from the taxes. They've written the regulations that way. Most taxes are paid by people making less than $100,000 a year. I've got different government commission reports on that we've covered here on air. But they create this illusion that the ultra-rich will be punished in some type of class warfare envy situation if they are brought to heel by government when they control that government. Some amazing statements. The IRS knows, of course, exactly what you're doing. With this system, the IRS now gets to know about a small business owner's entire payroll, the level of their insurance coverage, and it gets to know the income of not just the primary breadwinner in your house, but your entire family's income in order to assess, collect, and mandate taxes, reports Fox News. And it's all in there. All the new agents to enforce it, everything. Meanwhile, Barclays CEO Diamond quits over rate rigging in countries all over the world, including here in the United States. Well, of course, they get banker bailouts from your pocketbook, and then they get it at 0% interest, and then they loan it back to governments, the population, between 7 and 30-something%. Well, some credit cards are above 60 now. It's a good business. While having Neocon Talk Radio lecture everyone about how evil welfare is all day when they set up the system. So that is just some of the reports we're going to be going over today, and we're going to open the phones up. Andy Griffith dies at 86. It's funny, I had my children up, all three of them up here at the office yesterday, and they did some homeschool work, even though it's summer, and then they did some artwork. But I let them occasionally, every few weeks, watch some Andy Griffith show. I let him watch a couple episodes of that. And he's dead. That is certainly sad. Really great guy. Now, he's a great actor, was a great actor in Facing the Crowd. Wow, that's a powerful movie. So, sayonara, good trip, my friend. I bet you're in a better place. Andy Griffith, dead at 86. We're all going to be dead one day, so enjoy life while it's here. Enjoy the magic. By the way, speaking of that, A couple of weeks ago, I had the skull in here, the human skull and the crocodile skull, and I said I'd have it last week for you. It's a big special report. You'll find out what the skull's all about sometime, but it's not ready yet. It is Tuesday, July 3rd, 2012. Later in the broadcast, I'm going to read at least part of the Declaration of Independence that is considered basically terrorism by the banker occupational government that has hijacked this nation. But July 4th is tomorrow, so we will talk some about what that actually stands for. Coming up later in the next hour, Representative Marsha Blackburn, who is valiantly trying to restrict the criminal activities of the banker occupation force, the TSA. She's going to be joining us. And also Rosa Koire, author of a short little book that details the criminal takeover by the globalists via Agenda 21. She's going to be joining us with some new big developments coming up in the third hour today. And we'll have open phones so people can call in with their horror stories. Or if you love having international treaties and bureaucracy written by big banks coming in to destroy private property and don't want to be able to have a garden in your backyard and want home inspectors forcing their way in, you can call in and tell us about that as well. I don't think we'll get too many calls. That's why the system's authoritarian. It's extremely unpopular. Sheriff Arpaio is set to unleash shocking Obama birth certificate revelations. That's the headline. Breathtaking information. That's a quote. Information will top previous press conference, says lead investigator. That's an Infowars.com article. We got Joseph Farah of WorldNet Daily joining us Thursday, where they're going to be breaking this to give us some tidbits or any ideas. I already had him scheduled to cover other issues, and we're going to get his take on health care, all of it. But Joe Farah, for his maiden visit with us, will be on the broadcast. When I was up at Bilderberg in D.C., their offices are over there in Virginia, about 2 miles from where Bilderberg was held, and they invited me over. Very nice folks, very professional, nice operation, great people over there, nice newsroom. So I look forward to having Joe Farah here on the broadcast Thursday with some other breaking news. Chief Justice John Roberts bowed to political pressure and changed his vote on Obamacare. That's now being confirmed. Even CBS News is saying that as if we needed to be told that. A week before they were going to announce, and then suddenly, oh, we're not going to now. And then the pressure came because the power structure, the big banks, they want to force 35 million people to buy insurance, and then the insurance companies can control the care. They can make you buy it and have the IRS enforce it, and that's up at thenewamerican.com. Okay, continuing with some of the other news that's coming up as well. Sarkozy's home and offices, former French president, have been raided dealing with illegal financing of his 2007 campaign, which is on record was funded by Muammar Gaddafi. And then, of course, they could blackmail Sarkozy to get behind the war to go take out Gaddafi, or that information will be released, but still he's being burned. And this is how these criminal systems work. So Nicolas Sarkozy's home raided by French police. Okay, let me, before I go any further, getting into the news and then your phone calls here. Well, I'm going to cover this as well later. Syria running torture center network, rights group says, rights group funded by the banks. I don't want to say the U.S. and NATO and all that. I mean, that's all banker-occupied government. Because it's always saying, we're saying, like America's saying, or U.S.-funded rights groups. No. The banker-occupied media, the banker-captured media is saying, we've got to go into Syria because he might have tortured some people. So the United States needs to be invaded? Because our criminal government has tortured little children, the Army's own report admits, and killed people, and flown people by the tens of thousands to secret sites, black sites, ghost sites all over the world. I mean, I could mention what's been admitted out of the CIA torture center within Camp X-Ray in Guantanamo, but I can't say it on a family show. Drugging people to freak them out, they say to freak them out when it leaked. No, it's because they're Satanist folks. Women, prostitutes, blood. I'm going to leave it at that. You can go look it up. I can't even tell you what the Army's own report. Just type in Army's report on Abu Ghraib torture. You'll get the full report, NBC, you name it. It includes raping children with battery acid. I'm just going to leave it at that. People always hear that and don't believe it and go look it up and go, oh my gosh, this is true. Yes, this is true. It's because they like to do it. That's why they want to get torture going, because they want to try to legalize it so that they can do it to you. Okay? That's what this is all about. About hell being manifest. So you got to love the doublespeak, though. Oh my gosh, they torture people in China and Syria, but then you give no proof of Syria. Though that is what they do over there, so it probably is going on. But the point is that now we've got to invade because they might have tortured. Maybe they threw babies out of incubators. Of course, that later turned out was PR fraud. Doesn't matter, though. It feels good to get upset and get behind a big war and have the troops blow up giant chemical weapons dumps and then have it rain back down, and then everybody gets brain cancer. And then the military doesn't give them treatment. But again, it doesn't matter because it felt good at the time, and being conned feels good. Now, let me get into this little piece of news first, because Barclays CEO Diamond quits over rate rigging. And this deals with Barclays chief executive Bob Diamond quit on Tuesday under fire from politicians and regulators, people they appointed, the highest profile casualty of the interest rate rigging scandal spanning more than a dozen banks across the world, the big banks who get your money. A lot of it just pure money they get, but then a lot of it's quote, quote, bailout. And then, they give them trillions, and then they loan it out at 10, 20, 30% or higher to governments, individuals. And then they have an unfair trade advantage and are able to take over. And then they control the regulators and shut down local banks that are a lot more solvent than they are. That's how this works. And so you've got that happening. You've got these same groups taking over countries. They're imploding by design. Meanwhile, the very same group that runs our nation comes out on Wolf Blitzer, and they have the DNC chair say non-compliance with Obamacare will not be tolerated. This is an Infowars.com article right now. Despite claiming Obamacare was not a tax, we have links to Obama saying that in all the articles, and it was a conspiracy theory, and there were no death panels, which they now admit. Democratic National Committee Chairwoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz told CNN's Wolf Blitzer that the Internal Revenue Service would be the easiest enforcer of penalties against those who refuse to comply with the new health care law. And she goes on to say, the states, individuals, it will not be tolerated. You will submit to the board. And she says, don't worry. You don't want to buy health care, that's fine. We'll take thousands of dollars. What is it, $5,000? $100 out of each check. And then $500 penalties, and then it goes up from there. Upwards of $5,000 a year. They'll just take it out of your account. And then it gets rid of a lot of the charity care that was already there, lets the insurance companies lower the standard of care. And the Supreme Court ruled and said, yes, it's a tax, and the IRS will enforce it. And what have I told you over and over again? Two groups are going to enforce all of this unconstitutional activity. The looting. The TSA, now on highways and checkpoints and schools and proms, don't believe me, look it up, and bus stations for now 3-4 years, but now they're rolling out nationwide, everywhere. And they command the Army and police. You're like, well, why do not trained, not bonded weirdos command and have weird inspector outfits that they wear when they're out? Because it's about scum and criminals that don't even get background checks. Or when you do have the background check, if you're a criminal, you go to the front of the line. That's been confirmed. Think about it. We're just calmly talking about the government hiring criminals now, and we're so broke back psychologically, spiritually, we're just like, yeah, that's the way it is. They hire criminals. And then they go out and shake you down on the highways and byways. And the new green police the feds are setting up under the Rural Council and all of this, they admit, same thing in Australia, very same group. It's globally standardized that it's like a 2-week course or 10-day course now with the TSA, but in Australia it's a 2-week. And then they just come to your house and say, we're coming in. And they're armed. No judge, no jury. They're coming in to do an inspection. They're coming in to forcibly inoculate. They're coming in to cut down your garden in your backyard in Tulsa, Oklahoma, that you've had for 20 years and then charge you for it. No law, they just do it. They're here, they rule. Let me tell you, man, driving home now at night, cops run up on you just for fun. There's a whole lane right next to you, just to, I guess, scare you. Cop pulled me over, said, "What are you doing crossing my medium?" Sure, he could have given me a ticket. He didn't. But it was the screaming at me saying, "What are you doing crossing my medium?" Because, it's out on the road, big dirt spot people go across. It's all totally backed up. Whatever. The point is cops do it all day. And I understand everybody does it. It can turn into a problem. Whatever. Write me a ticket. But it's the attitude of, what are you doing on my road? I get it. I'm occupied by banks. You're their imperial force. I get it. I get that they're inoculating in Connecticut and Maryland and Alabama and California and all over now. No law, criminally shooting kids up, and they're having seizures on the spot, and many of them are dying. And it's just a back of the newspaper deal. I get it. Okay, I got it. It's your country, your world, your enchilada, and it's going straight to Hades. I get it. I got the memo. I understand. I understand. I understand. Don't think I don't understand. And the DNC chair wants us to understand. You see, this is, and she goes on, they go on to break down that, hey, we're going to know everything about you and track everything you do. And we're going to share your medical records, and we're going to share your tax reforms with anybody we want. And we're going to intimidate you, and the IRS is going to be in your life. And so are the environmental enforcers and all of them. That's what TSA is all about at the airports. Getting you used to being told, get up against that wall, line up, show me your papers. You scum. And we are scum. We are the filth. We are the slaves of absolute gibbering criminals. So we are pathetic. Let's just admit we are pathetic, captured, bug-eyed, sissy, castrated slaves. And we love it, and we want more. So, the CIA publicly tells us they're operating domestically, spying on all of us through our appliances. Drones are being launched into the skies, and they told us that they would not tax us with the IRS, even though it was in the bill. They said, that's not in the bill. Remember that? A year ago? Year and a half ago? I mean, I remember being on the radio covering, and I remember them going out and saying, there's no death panels, there's no IRS. And we're like, well, it's in the bill. No, there's not. Counting on most of the public not to go look it up. In fact, if we can put on screen for people watching at prisonplanet.tv, if not, go to Infowars.com, you can see the head of the Democratic Party. There in the featured news area at Infowars.com, you can see her photograph. I mean, what a power-crazed, greasy, weaselly-looking person. I mean, you can judge a book by its cover. Look at those predatory eyes. That is a person that swims in your ignorance, that feeds off of your neglect and being weak and letting her run everything. She wants power. She seized it. It's hers. And she wants America to know something. You are a slave of the state. The state is God. What does the New World Order mean? It means the state is God. And it means the IRS is going to be in all your business. And under Agenda 21, government is going to be in all of your business. And you better well learn to love it. You scum Americans. That's what they literally call us. They hate us more than they hate anybody else. People are like, this is wrecking healthcare. That's the plan. And then they're going to totally take it over. Everything is about wrecking society. That's what they do. It's their stated goal. Go read it. Go read their own Agenda 21. Don't underestimate how evil these people are. There's nothing liberal about this woman. These are tyrants. Did you hear the Weatherman report came out in federal court? They pled guilty. They later admitted to much of it, that they plan to put 50 million people in camps and kill 25 million of us. These people want to kill 25 million people. That's who they are. These are the most vicious, hateful scum you can imagine. They want to overthrow everything. I've sat down with people I didn't know were Marxist. People I've flown in to interview before. I'm not going to get into it and say names because I never aired the interview. And I go out to dinner with them. They drink a couple beers. And they start going, we're going to kill everybody. Blood, blood, blood. That's what these people are into. Okay? And they want to run your health care and run your life and wreck things. They hate you and your family. Now listen to this vicious, lying control freak who said the IRS wouldn't be involved, and of course it was, and who thought you were stupid. And it is unbelievable. Oh, and now Mitch McConnell, Senator McConnell, he's like, oh, I don't think we'll be able to repeal it. Sorry. Don't build opposition because you can't win. I don't like it either. Sure, that's why your little Republican was the swing vote. It's all a sick joke, and nothing's going to change till we admit it. Those of you hoping Romney's going to save you, who says now he's against the legislation he helped author? Sucker, schmucks, idiots, people who love to be conned, people who love to be taken for a ride, all the idiot Obama supporters. I'm going to come back in the next segment and play the clip of her that makes me so angry. And only anger and action and fully calling these monsters out for what they are is going to turn any of this around. These are flaming authoritarians. These are people that crave. Have you ever been around one of these fake liberal authoritarians? Especially the women. They hate men, they hate children, they drug their sons, they hate even their daughters, and they will come up and peck you in a store if you're looking at furniture or if you're buying fish. They will come up and peck you at a park. They will come up and they will look at you and they will bug their eyes out at you because they're nothing, unhappy, ugly people inside who are vain and obsessed with how they look and who hate humanity. I love humanity so much. I see the beauty. I see the passion. I see the creativity. I believe in humanity. I'm a fan of humanity. I want to see you go to your highest levels. When I see people who are successful or beautiful or dynamic, I admire them. When I see some guy with a number 10 smoking beautiful woman with electricity in her eyes, I think about the children they're going to have and hope for a future. I don't get mad. I see these guys with trophy wives walk into a restaurant and I see other men get uncomfortable and start hating on them. What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? I like seeing good things. I like seeing happy things. I like seeing success. And these people are the opposite. They are the enemy, and they must be crushed. They must be annihilated. Humanity, you'll never stop us, scum. You will never stop us, scum. All right, I just get really, really angry. Let me give you the toll-free number to talk about this. Talk about government takeover of healthcare, IRS, more in your life. Set up in 1913 as the collection agency for the private Federal Reserve. The 100 years charter of the Federal Reserve up next year. Ron Paul has introduced legislation to audit the Fed. Ron Paul's Texas Straight Talk, Audit the Fed, headed to the House floor. He posted that yesterday at Infowars.com. You can find it there in the tiles. Very important article to go after the people that have hijacked our government. It's not debated. Every financial publication, from the Financial Times of London to The Economist to the Wall Street Journal to CNBC, says, yeah, we're run by foreign banks. Yes, we've been captured. Yes, that's who rules us. And then they're the ones, that's why I've been harping on this forever. Now it's being admitted, they're the ones that want to bankrupt things so they can take control. And who are their enforcers? Who are their enforcers? The IRS that collects. Ronald Reagan's own congressional report broke this down in 1981. The Grace Commission. Go look it up. 99, almost 100%, 99%, less than 1% is administrative, goes to interest on the debt. Instead of just money being created as a symbol of exchange, money is created and then the banksters get interest right off the top. So what do they want to do? They want to expand the money supply. And again, to call it an unfair trade advantage is not even scratching the surface. This is why they're forming combines and oligopolies, duopolies, and monopolies. It's why they lobby for more regulations that they're exempt from. They're exempt from the major taxes. They're exempt from the regulations. They're exempt from the Obamacare. This is pure mafia government. Call it what you want, communist, fascist, socialist. All these things lead to tiny groups in control. Freedom, tiny government, leads to incredible diversity in the marketplace and wealth untold. It's a fact. All these statists that come out of the government schools will tell you the opposite because they don't live in the real world. Now that the banksters have used big government to bankrupt everything, though, and to start consolidating, now they want to bring in a fake brand of libertarianism where these big mega corporations just become the government, but have none of the responsibilities. And so now they want to cry libertarian because they've already stolen all the wealth. And they're afraid of people using government to claw it back from them in a separation of powers type situation. But don't worry, there is no separation of powers. Governments are bought and paid for by the more organized corporate criminals. Congress bought and paid for. The Parliament of England bought and paid for. To the point now that oily scumbags, like the head of the DNC, gets up there and says, we will not tolerate it. You will pay your fair share. We will ship your jobs to China. We will bankrupt you. We will give trillions to foreign banks. We will exempt ourselves and exempt all our friends and give billions of dollars to energy companies that pay us. We will engage in all these crimes and interest rate fixing and everything else. But you, the person making $50,000 a year, who cannot afford health insurance, instead of going in and just getting a bill and paying off your medical stuff, they've screwed up the medical system so bad with government involvement now and driven up the price so much that now they're going to say, well, we'll just take money out of your account. Or you can go buy the insurance. So it's a direct tax to the insurance companies, and it's worse. They then get to take control of the insurance. They get to take control of what type of care you get. This is all in there. This is a giant transfer of wealth to the ultra elite, ultra rich. And it also makes you go get health care from the MD medicine monopoly and not from all the other things that are out there. And the MD medical tyranny wants to make you take shots. They're lobbying for that. Wants to make, well, they're already giving kids shots without asking the parents. It's outrageous. The medical MD tyranny takes your blood for 40 years. It's now 40 years this year. At birth, in every globalist-controlled country, Europe, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, U.S., 40 years ago, we were already in a global government, folks, for all intents and purposes to a great extent. They're just expanding their bureaucracy and their reach into your house, into your backyard, into your farm, your ranch. They've got their world government, but it's up there like a mothership above us. They're now deploying their operatives down to eat out our substance. In fact, guys, will you print me the Declaration of Independence? Thank you. Because July 4th is tomorrow. And the globalists are coming down on us on every front, hitting us as hard as they can on every front. And just like Genghis Khan would ride in with 50,000 horsemen and just ride through the village and kill everybody, that's what this is called. The Romans did the same thing. It's called scorched earth. That's what Agenda 21 and Rosa Koire's book, Behind the Green Mask, UN Agenda 21, the agenda for the 21st century sustainable development. That's what this does. That's why we carry the book. And you get another terrorist document, the Declaration of Independence, Constitution, Bill of Rights, famous quotes, jury nullification, booklet with it free. If you go to InfoWarsShop.com, and your purchase also supports the broadcast. But here's the toll-free number to join us is 800-259-9231, 800-259-9231. It is very important. First-time callers again, because you notice the quality of the callers goes up 10,000% when we say first time, because there's millions of listeners and no one can get in but a small handful of folks who sit there by the phone, who are great people, but come on. First-time callers again, 800-259-9231. DNC chair, non-compliance with Obamacare will not be tolerated. Quote, the IRS now gets to know about a small business's entire payroll, the level of their insurance coverage, and it gets to know the income of not only the primary breadwinner in your house, but your entire family's income in order to assess, collect, and mandate the tax. The way we usually think of taxation, Wolf, is that taxation is the IRS administers and collects on broad swaths of large categories of individuals. Wasserman Schultz said, this is a penalty that will be assessed. See, the IRS is not going to be the enforcer of everything. They were always meant to be that. This is and they're already lawless. They already have their own weird kangaroo courts with no jury, just like they set up family courts 100 years ago. Totally fake. As long as you put a crook in a black uniform, though, behind the desk, it's fine. This is a penalty that will be assessed of the tax return if you choose to roll the dice and make us pay for your being irresponsible and increase all of your health care costs. Oh, this is the Democrats telling us we're not responsible if you choose to not want to go do it. See, they already quasi-socialize it. So then they say, oh, well, you've got to buy it now. And now they're saying they're going to tell you what you can eat. Now they're going to tell you, because after all, everybody's paying for you. It's total takeover. This is only the beginning with these criminals running our society. And remember, 2,000 plus companies are exempt. Big major corporations, they don't have to do this. You do. Just like General Electric and all of them are exempt from taxes. It's all for us. How many famous rich people have I seen joke and go, taxes? That's for regular people. These billionaires, folks, don't pay taxes. Mitt Romney pays almost no taxes because they're certain. Take the Justice Department. The Attorney General is partners in a law firm that if you go hire them to do your taxes and to certify them, no one touches you. Oh, and their lawyer says you don't have to pay tax, Mr. Romney. Their lawyer says Obama doesn't have to partly pay any taxes. And then they go put them in offshore corporations. Again, because these are criminals. Let's go ahead and go to the CNN clip that got me so mad. Here it is, in your face, telling you that you've given tens of trillions to the banks, but you haven't done enough. All the hundreds of taxes you pay in different ways, fines, fees, hidden taxes, it's not enough. Now your health care is under the IRS set up. We had 10% growth rates on average before the IRS was set up in 1913. Wasn't even implemented until the late 40s. They said, oh, it's a temporary wartime tax. We take some money out of your account. You pay taxes with tolls and tariffs and regulations and gas taxes and all these other things. That's what runs the government. I mean, my gosh, ladies and gentlemen, I drive all over this country, and I see cops every mile. And they're there to raise revenue. They're there to burn out the country. They're there to bankrupt the nation. Again, I can't even go to our family ranch that we've had since 1830 and just be camping on it without 6, 7, 8 game wardens running in going, we're federally deputized, we're visiting everybody, and bucking their chest out like getting off on ego, like they're trying to scare you, and it's like they're little clown idiots. I'm like, take your cancer viruses, drink your fluoride, pal. Okay? I'm not scared of you. Just give your kids shots, let them have seizures, and bury them. You like being a slave? Listen, you little slug, you're not over anybody. You're being murdered by the New World Order, you bug-eyed idiot. This country is just, again, love it, love it. It's all going to collapse by design. The New World Order is going to destroy all of you that serve it. You want it? Don't worry. You're going to get everything you want, all of it. The Germans got what they wanted, 20 million of their people killed for serving Hitler. The Russians thought, well, the small group that supported communists, and don't worry, the Russians killed over 40 million of their people. Mao over 60. Don't worry. You want to get hurt bad? They're going to hurt you. And you servants of this, you're going to get hurt the worst. So enjoy. One word, enjoy. 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 Here's the clip. Here is the clip of CNN and this witch. Here it is.
Solicitor General tells the Supreme Court representing the Obama administration it is in fact a tax. It'll be administered by the IRS. It'll be collected on April 15th. Why can't you acknowledge that it is in fact a tax?
Because it's a penalty. It's not a tax. It's a penalty that if you decide to be irresponsible and continue to refuse to carry health insurance and make us all pay for your being irresponsible, then you can do that. You know, we're not going to actually require that you have health insurance. What we're saying is if you choose not to carry health insurance, then you will be assessed a penalty that will be assessed on your tax return, and that affects about 1% of Americans who choose to do that.
So Donald Verrilli, the Solicitor General, was wrong? He didn't tell the truth to the Supreme Court?
No, on the contrary. But the way we usually think of taxation, Wolf, is that taxation, as the IRS administers it, is collected on broad swaths and large categories of individuals. This is a penalty that will be assessed on the tax return if you choose to roll the dice and make us all pay for your being irresponsible and increase all of our health care costs. We're not going to tolerate that anymore in America. You have to be responsible, and you're going to pay a penalty if you choose not to be.
I have one final question. Why is the IRS administering this if it's not a tax? Isn't that their job to impose taxes, to collect taxes, to punish people who don't pay taxes?
Well, because administratively, that's that's really the easiest, most basic way to do it. It's the same way that they do it in Massachusetts. The Department of Revenue in Massachusetts.
All right, let's stop right there. Turn that witch off. Turn that enemy of this country off, that occupier off. And she is an occupier by the foreign banks. They're rolling in administrative tax collectors in Greece and places, just shaking people down right now. Notice when I had the TSA guy go, I'm going to grope you a few months ago, I said, that's a Fourth Amendment violation. He said, I have administrative privileges, and smiled. See, it's administrative. It's maritime. We got guys in uniforms that if you don't pay us are going to come with guns. And we're going to throw you in a prison. By the way, a well-known activist, former bigwig in UK Independence Party, kind of like the leader of their Tea Party over there. We have an article by Paul Watson breaking it all down. Man arrested, tried in secret for non-payment of tax. And it was a special star chamber. They just arrested him, took him, and the same day tried him in some secret trial. They just said, he's gone now. Yes, he had a secret trial. This is in the news. He's gone now. He's gone now. You're just gone now. Bye-bye. Gone now. Gone now. And, of course, they told you, NDAA, we'll kill you. We'll disappear you. Everything. And this is freedom. And then we got some witch going, you will behave yourself. You will comply. We will no longer tolerate you. What's her exact quote? What is Witchy Poo's exact quote here? This is a penalty that will be assessed on the tax return if you choose to roll the dice and make us all pay for your being irresponsible and increase all of your health care costs. And let me tell you, most of the people I know that have the IRS taking their house, it's a 2-bedroom, their kids are all in high school, or they're elderly. I know a lot of people right now who live in the poor part of town. And the IRS is coming back and saying, yeah, it shows 5 years ago you made this $1,000, and we say you didn't pay on it right, so now it's $10,000. And they don't have $10,000. And so now they start grabbing their Social Security check, or they start grabbing their bank check, or they start taking money out of their bank account, and then they just come take the house. And it's like, oh, you just be homeless or move in with your family, move in with your neighbors. It's a squeezing. It's a crushing. And it's not going to stop. They're going to squeeze and squeeze and squeeze because they like doing it. And they love lying to you. It's part of their religion of disdain for the cattle. You notice the Supreme Court says, the Solicitor General, it is a tax. It's enforced by the IRS to pay it to the subsidiaries of the Federal Reserve. They're big insurance companies. I've been telling you for 2 years, it's a tax to the bankers. What is it now? You're going to get this, or the IRS is going to hit you with penalties and interest. No judge, no jury, no due process. What's the Constitution say? What does it say? For anything more than $20, you get a jury trial? No, you don't. We're going to take $5,000 out with penalties and interest, and we're going to take your bank account, and we're going to put a levy on your house, and we're going to send people with guns to take it. And if you resist, they're going to kill you. And you know what? They like to kill people. They like to kill people. It makes them feel manly, and they're going to kill you, and they're going to take it. And Bank of America is going to take houses that are paid for, and the courts are going to take it. And that's just the way it is. That's just the way it is, because you're going to be responsible. We're not going to put up with you not being responsible anymore as they give $500 million to energy companies for them to steal. And as Obama goes, like the mafia, because that's what he is, and says, you're not a Democratic donor. You've had the Chevy dealership since 1931. This is on record, Minnesota, many other. We're taking your dealership. You can still own the property, but you got to take the Chevy sign down. You got 2 weeks, and you will not have delivery of any Chevy products. And then you give it to your Democratic donor. I mean, these are lawless criminals squatting on us, spitting in our faces, and everyone's shaking in fear going, I can't believe you're talking back to them. I can't believe you're in your face. Because I'm done. I'm done. This is not unusual when a bunch of crooks are running roughshod over us publicly to stand up to them. We're in this position because I'm seen as a maniac, because I'm willing to tell them like it is. I'm done living on my knees. I'm standing up, and you need to as well, and call out these crooks. You got local crooks putting fluoride in your water? You get out of the city council, you say, listen here, buddy, you stop assaulting me and my family. Is that clear? Don't you laugh at me, maggot! This country, this world, as a case of tyrannical cancer, we either remove it or we die. And they've got us all debating this sinking ship while criminals run all over us, robbing everything not nailed down. I'm going to go to your phone calls. Phone system is down right now. I know I have callers, but it's down, so I may have to write down the callers as they come in. But just briefly, some of the new films we're carrying, so you can expose how they're murdering people and soft-killing others. The Greater Good, exposing the vaccine cover-up, very professional film available at InfoWarsShop.com, or just link through at Infowars.com. Dreams from My Real Father, a story of Red's deception by Joel Gilbert. This film is sending shockwaves across the country, really powerful, chillingly convincing that they've discovered who Obama's real father is. Available at InfoWarsShop.com. Okay. We'll take calls for this segment, the next 30 minutes. I'll try to settle down, and then we've got a congresswoman joining us who's battling the federal brown shirt goon force. And that's literally what it is. It's a thuggish, paramilitary, potbelly force sent out to rule. Let's go ahead and talk to Mark in Arizona. Mark, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hi, Alex. I just wanted to say a couple of things. Firstly, thank you. You have been so instrumental in my awareness and awakening. One of the things I've been learning and done at Awakening is learned about research and learned about history. And I've been doing a lot of research on history and learned that history repeats itself. And I don't understand quite why people don't realize that.
Well, because the average person is timid and is a spectator. Their whole life is about watching and being told what to do. And so they have no idea what's happening. They have no idea how much danger we're in. I mean, they have no idea. I mean, the New World Order is killing people all over the planet. And just setting up a horrible re-education system here. They'll find out, though. I mean, don't worry.
Okay. With that said, and with all that's going on, like all that we're seeing unfold before our very eyes, and the things that we've been seeing since just January 1st of this year, I've often pondered lately, I wonder what it might look like in a modern-day situation. Have you pondered or given any speculation to what it might look like?
Yeah, they know to not confront you up front with intimidation and force unless it's a protest, because they want that extinguished, because that can get out of hand. They could lose control that way because it would show our power and we could win. And so it's just going to be bureaucratic. Yeah, we're taking your house. Sorry, you got behind. Yeah, that's just the way yeah, we're taking your kids for forced inoculation. It's just how it is. It's all this, this fake, non-threatening garbage. It's for your own good. We represent the majority when they don't. It's just oily. But, I mean, here we are. It'll mean staged terror attacks, the criminals that staged the attacks posing as saviors. I mean, are you asking what it's going to look like, or what are you saying?
Well, what I'm asking you is, have you pondered what a modern-day, quote-unquote, heard around the world might look like in today's world? Like what happened in Lexington when people finally got pissed off enough to say no more. I've wondered what that might look like today, because the playing field is very different. It's not going to go down like it did back then.
Well, that's why they don't ever send people marching in. Let's say 200 guys got on a hilltop and they were coming to confiscate guns in some town. And if they just showed up, well, I mean, I'll explain it when we come back. The SWAT teams wouldn't go face a group like that. They would wait and go burn down the people's houses later. You see, that's what they do. They never want to face something head on. All right, ladies and gentlemen, coming up in about 30 minutes, Representative Marsha Blackburn is scheduled to be joining us. She's fighting the TSA in a big way. Glad to see that she's doing that. Wish Ron Paul introduced some legislation like that. But he is trying to get legislation introduced to audit the Fed. That's moving to the House floor right now, so I guess many hands make light work. The last caller was asking, what will the shot be heard around the world? It will be as things collapse, if the police and military get caught on tape, really engage in a massacre like Waco or something, and that woke a lot of people up back in '93. And got a lot of the modern patriot movement set up that is the only opposition to the globalists right now. So that could be a shot heard around the world. Also, there's more of a velvet revolution of ideas as people just stop complying and as people recognize and withdraw their consent from the system. No amount of airplanes and drones and black uniforms are going to make people, identify with it anymore. That's why in every movie, shows, dramas, America's Got Talent, NFL games, it's all fake patriotism, but packaging tyranny as if it's the patriotism. That's not going to work anymore. The system, though, doesn't want a upfront physical confrontation where they don't have the moral high ground. That's why they will start riots or create atmospheres politically that will induce riots. So the system can come in as the good guys and restore order and then basically never leave, and then start the political persecution. Well, you saw the collapse and the riots. We can't have people criticizing the government. They're trying to bring prosperity back. Why, look at all the government's doing to help us. This is all going to be rolled out with layers of brainwashing and sickening, garbage attached to it. But it doesn't matter. 9% approval rating for Congress. People don't buy any of it anymore. Now we've just got to get people moving forward. But the shot heard around the world will be gun confiscation if they try it. And you see, the crooks have seized control of the system. And they're in command, but not everybody's following orders. And so there's this paradox of incredible tyranny and surveillance and torture teams and all of this set up, and armored vehicles and, helicopters with nerve gas mounted to the bottom waiting in each U.S. city. Sunshine Project reported on that over a decade ago. But separately, there's people waking up. There's gun owners. There's millions of guns being sold. I mean, you know what millions of riflemen can do? I don't care how much fancy stuff you've got. So it's all a psyop. And so the globalists are busy because they're in control of the war chest. They're in control of the money, stealing everything they can, wrecking whatever they can, putting in regulations to shut down stuff they don't own as fast as they can, while wasting as much money as they can and creating as much dependency as they can. Imagine if you were evil and you didn't follow any rules. What would you do? You'd undermine society. You'd break down the family. You'd deindustrialize. You'd pose as the savior, though, so people were dependent on you. And that's what they do. They take every trick learned in history, and they write publications admitting, they call it the final revolution, of how to totally dumb down and take control of society. We're going to go to break and come back and go to Holly, and then we're going to go to David, Kevin, Ed, Matt, and others. And I'm going to try to just go to you, make your comment, ask your question. I'm going to try to shut up and just move to the next person, because I really have a deep desire just to take calls. But then the questions are all very serious and very important, and I don't know how to respond to it. Because if you respond in a long treatise, the information's lost. So the real sweet spot that's got to be hit is condensing down the essence of it in easily to understand and pass on nuggets. All right, we'll be back with your phone calls straight ahead. We have several guests joining us today. Rosa Koire and Representative Marsha Blackburn. Stay with us. Okay, we are taking your calls right now on whatever subject you call in about. I love the different angles and directions you take us in. A fellow was asking us earlier, what's the shot heard around the world going to be for physical confrontation? Most revolutions are intellectual. How about we just withdraw our consent and stop complying with unconstitutional garbage? You know, the head of the DNC, a political crime network, engage in every crime you can imagine, shipping guns to Mexico, giving billions to their buddies in fake energy companies, engaged in just all sorts of bizarre behavior, tells us we're not paying our fair share and that it's a tax to insurance companies. It's just time to stop complying. More and more, you're illegitimate, you're crooks. It's time to have disdain and mistrust and hatred for government that they've taught us is evil. Well, if you think disliking government is bad, then you're not an American. You don't know what's in the Declaration of Independence. You don't know what's in the Constitution. It's that simple. It's that simple. Now, coming up, she's got legislation introduced. Representative Marsha Blackburn to make the TSA admit they're not, quote, sworn peace officers, that they now call law enforcement, and to do some other things. She's going to be joining us. Then Rosa Koire is going to be getting into the Post-Sustainability Institute and the latest nightmares of Agenda 21, including going after people's farms and ranches with spy overflights by drones and fixed-wing aircraft, all of it. That's coming up as well. But let's go to your calls. Holly in Colorado. Holly, how are those fires there?
They're better. We've had a lot of help from all across the country. We're very thankful for it. We're just still praying for the people who've lost their houses, but we're definitely very lucky that we've got the northern Colorado fire 100% contained. I think the last update was on that.
And you know what FEMA does, though? They come show up and then slow down the process like they did outside Austin last year in Bastrop. They come in, slow down the whole process, and then grandstand and say that they did it all.
I definitely agree with you, Alex. You say things all the time that definitely intrigue me. You've helped broaden my awareness and consciousness. A friend of mine out here in Colorado, we're trying to get together a group. We've put together a Twitter page, Consciousness Colorado, or @Awaken5280, and we're just trying to basically spread the word. We're definitely, not the ones that are bringing all this information to the light. People like you and David Icke and many of these documentaries that we all watch and share, Ethos and the corporation, definitely are the sources of information that help us awaken, and we are out here trying to spread it in Colorado.
Well, great job. I threw a curveball at you about the fires. Got fires out west all over the place. Got in the east, obviously, devastating power outages and government waddling around pointing guns at people, posing as a savior and demanding the utility companies, get things back on quicker when the government can't do anything but steal money and, again, swagger around. What did you originally call in about today?
Well, I just called to basically thank you. I'm really excited, first-time caller, but I also was very interested in one of the topics that you covered. I believe it was last week on the smart meters and dirty electricity. And I'm just hoping that maybe you retouch that topic in a future show, because there is a lot of people that don't really understand what these smart meters and the potential harm to us from the dirty electricity,
I agree with you. It's a big deal, not to mention all the surveillance that the smart meters are engaged in illegally. Thank you so much, Holly. Be safe out there in Colorado. Let's go ahead and talk to Kevin in Canada. Kevin, you're on the air.
Hello, Alex.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, it's Kevin in Banff, Alberta, Canada. How you doing, man?
Good, man.
Good. I just wanted to make a comment about the healthcare system up here and how flawed it can be. I have a bit of a knee problem. Did a lot of research online. Couldn't really get much info, so I went to go see the doc. Sat down, and he said to Google it. That was his diagnosis there. So just an example of the...
Oh, yeah. I mean, listen. People don't understand. We're going to get the type of free health care they get in England, which stand in line for a couple years if you're lucky, or go in with strep throat and they give you a bottle of aspirin. I mean, people are really going to love the new thing. It's going to be wonderful. They're going to water it down, destroy our health care, and charge us more, and have the IRS administer it. It's going to be wonderful.
Yeah, all the good doctors went down to the States because they could actually earn a living down there, and I guess that'll be changing now as the Obamacare has been pushed through. So,
well, that's what the New World Order is about. They say people hate us. We wreck things, but they say it's finally going to be great when no one can run. Again, these are people that make you be under them. These are people that you'd never invite over to dinner, people you'd never want to be around, but they want to run your life. Now the Census Bureau goes out every year. The law says it's every 10 to ask how many people live here for apportionment of the legislature, to see how many House members you get. But no, it's what stocks and bonds do you have? What firearms do you have? And now it's going to be monthly censuses. And again, oh my gosh, a government person's at my door. I better grovel and answer all their questions. I tell them to go jump in the lake and slam the door in their face. I take their envelopes and throw them in the trash. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's they were coming around like Gestapo. It was ridiculous. Both myself and my neighbor wanted to opt out of the census, and this guy came down probably, I would say, 25 times in a month. Like he would hang outside the house, watch for us when we were leaving, kind of see where we're coming out of, and you know, you go talk to the guy eventually, and he's just completely ignorant on the whole issue. Like,
yeah, well, you know what I
idea
say? I
he's
say,
doing.
shut
Doesn't
up,
know.
scum. And I've done it. You know, back when people could get to my house, you could walk up to the door. You can't now, because I live back in the woods. I go right up and say, what are you doing? The guy had zits all over his face and a plastic badge, and he said, you're not filling out the form. And I said, yeah, it's criminal. He goes, you'll be arrested. And I go get the cops then. And he started bowing up, and I said, listen, get off my porch right now, punk. Get out of here. I don't care if the criminals that run you told you that you can do this. This is back in 2000. I slammed the door in his face. I even shot video of it. I don't know where the video's at. I never used it. But the point is, my wife, she's my girlfriend at the time, she said it sounded so vicious. But probably shouldn't put it on air. But, you know, I mean, and by the way, then I walked out a few minutes later. He was parked in the middle of the residential street, 3 feet off the curb, blocking the road like he was God, just waddling. And that's what TSA is. You see, at least with the police, there's some history of the Constitution, Bill of Rights, some training. They've tried to phase it out, but there's still all these court cases with an old agency that they can't do all these things. But see, a new agency, they can say, oh, well, we're new. But just to be clear, you went to get your knee diagnosed, and they just said, just Google it. Google is now your doctor in Canada.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I said, you know, should I try some glucosamine sulfate? You know, a few things like the Dr. Wallach products, and you know, I just threw out the names. I wasn't throwing out the company, but he said, yeah. I just kind of shrugged it off and said, well, you know, you could probably just Google it. There's some really good information out there.
Yeah.
And I almost laughed in his face, and I just walked out the door and, you know, ordered some OsteoFX.
God bless you, sir. I appreciate you calling. Listen. People are so dumb, they won't even notice everything gets screwed up. And this is just the beginning of bankrupting healthcare. This is just the beginning of bankrupting America. It's a slow, loving process as they strangle us. Okay? And it's all designed. People are like, California is plunging faster after the 20% carbon tax was put in. Of course. Didn't government know it would make the economy go down? Of course they knew. Of course they knew. That's the whole point. Bankrupt you, drive you into submission, then only the globalists who are exempt from all their own laws can operate. This is very elementary. Very elementary. And it's like a bad dream. Just wake up to it and say no. A lot of people say, man, this show is so radical. No. We've put up with radical tyranny to the point of it's cartoon-like now. What's radical is how servile people have gotten. Ed in Tennessee, he's watching on prisonplanet.tv. Ed, welcome.
What's going on, Alex?
Worldwide transmission, sir. Thank you for calling.
All right. Hey, look, I got to thank you and George Norrie for getting me awake here about 5 years ago. But my prime reason for calling in, and I sent an email to you last week when I got it, but it's, okay, this is Romney about, from Freedom Outpost. Romney, I do not need approval or special authorization for military force. In an interview with Bob Schaefer on Face the Nation, Mitt Romney declares that he would do exactly what Barack Obama has done and use military force not in defense of our nation, but in a preemptive strike against Iran without congressional approval. He says, just for a second here, I can assure you, if I'm president, the Iranians will have no question that I will be willing to take military action if necessary to prevent them from becoming a nuclear threat.
No, we played the clip. That was a few weeks ago. And, of course, look, it's not that, wow, he's a lot like Obama. Isn't that funny? That's because they're puppets, and whatever the globalist policy is, they're going to follow. Just like Roberts, ruling that you can pay private banks and insurance companies a tax and that the IRS will enforce it if you don't. People are like, well, why did Roberts do that? Because that's what the ruling system wants. That's what the criminals want. And, you know, all these male cheerleader presidents and all these Obama Harvard lawyers and all, I mean, of course you're going to get the same thing. Of course he says he supports the NDAA. Of course he supported abortion and all this in the past. And watch, you'll get rhetoric that's anti-abortion out of Romney if he gets in, but you're not going to see it repealed because they want dead babies. The rulers, the owners of this country that took it over through fraud, any minion they let in is going to do exactly what they want. Your comment on that?
Oh, I'm in full agreement with you. I mean, there's so much scum and there's so much evil coming in at us that it's almost frightening. I mean, I look around and I'm like, okay, what are they going to drop on us now? I mean, my little quick rant is we need to get Ron Paul back in this game. I mean, he's the only one. I mean, everybody says he can't win, can't win. Well, if people would stop saying that crap and say he can win and get behind him.
No, I hear you. Listen. Ron Paul, though, did his job. He got the word out about the New World Order. The rest is up to us. This is a long fight. If you go to the front page of Infowars.com, you will see a poster that says the war on prosperity is calling you, and it's got hundreds of Agent Smiths. Hundreds of Agent Smiths stacked up there, and it says enlist in the IRS. Besides, no one else is hiring. And again, it shows Agent Smith stacked up to go after everybody. Actually, that's posted in the article by Kurt Nimmo. I thought it was on the front page. Thousands of new IRS agents to be hired to enforce Obamacare. And that's on top of the 8,000 they already hired to enforce it. It's another 6,500 just to enforce this. And there's no judge, jury. They just take it out of your bank account or take it out of your paycheck. Who needs due process when you've got tyranny? So important article up there, sending out swarms of agents to eat out our substance. Let's go to David in California. You're on the air, David. Welcome.
Hello, Alex. Thanks for having me on. Just can't wait till the full implementation of the socialist health care is upon us. That's just going to be so wonderful.
Yeah, remember all the Obama supporters when he was president-elect going, thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to get a free house now, a free car. And Obama's like, yes, you are. Yes, yes. Yes, government is going to make NAFTA and GATT was going to be good, too. I mean, they're really going to fix everything. Because after all, the recession ended 3 years ago.
Oh, of course. That's why everything is so hunky-dory now. And I love the clip you played, Alex. That's just wool in sheep's clothing. It's like how they sell us democracy over the Republican. They say democracy is what we are, democracy is what you want, and then when that fails, you can blame the Republic. Just like you can blame capitalism when you pour socialism all like a creamy topping all over your capitalism, and so they say, look how nasty this tastes. Look how gross your capitalism is. Well,
it's worse than that. I mean, they create a mafia crony monopoly system, and then tell us it's capitalism.
I interchange fascism. What is it? Predatory totalitarianism, as Lord Monckton called it.
No, it is. It's predatory totalitarianism. And I always get these political scientists send me emails and comments, and they say, you keep calling them fascist, communist, socialist. Look, folks, it's all different window dressing on the same thing. Totalitarian, authoritarian, control freak, kleptocracy, chicken neck, scumbag, criminal, control freak. Look, everybody that's into power and control is not cool. They're not happy people. I've been around them. They're not happy people. They're grasping weirdos that love to ruin people's lives. It's like the Wicked Witch, from Sleeping Beauty. She's not invited to the party, so she ruins everything. That's who they are. That's what they like to do. They are murderous filth. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's true. They're rapists who can't get a date, and that's why. And anyway, the main reason I'm calling is to talk to, actually not to you, but to your listeners. The best way, if you were to ask me, the best way to pull out of this system, this socialist healthcare, this gravy train, is to watch what you eat. They want to poison you. Everything you put in your body. If you're not,
I agree. Get healthy. Don't fix your families, don't watch as much television, and also resist them, criticize them, speak out against them. We posted yesterday, in fact, I'm going to have it reposted as the top story, the next wave of Obama dictator contest that ends this Friday. $10,000, folks. Go print the flyers from the Obama dictator contest. It's a green link. Top of Infowars.com, hang them in legal and lawful areas, videotape it, upload it. You could win $10,000. You've got 4 more days to do it. Okay? Get involved. Get aggressive, because it shows the power of the people taking action. Great point, though. Get healthy. I've been trying to do that. I jogged and swam this morning. Anything else, sir?
No, let's just take our country back right now, Alex.
Absolutely. I mean, the most important thing is just start going to city council. Start letting them know that they're servants, not your masters. Start talking about the Federal Reserve. Start talking about how this is a banker dictatorship. Start talking about the real issues. And when they laugh, say, I know that's a canned response that's meant to make me feel powerless and meant to make other people here turn against fellow citizens. But we know you're the problem. We see through your psyop. Bring them to justice. They are the enemy. Now, there are some people in government that are waking up in their constitutional duty. There are a lot of good police, a lot of good military, and a lot of good city council, county commissioner types. But we all know the types I'm talking about. The people that think they're God, the people that laugh at their constituents, the people that want more government, the people that want to arm to the teeth against the citizens. We all know who the redcoats of the 21st century are. So we'll do what our forebears did for 15 years before 1776. We are going to identify them, we're going to call them out, and we're going to separate in the minds of the people the good from the bad, evil from good. We're doing it right now. It's Infowar, Infowars.com. Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. until 2 p.m. Central. That's 12 noon to 3 p.m. Eastern. We are here live, going out on XM Channel 166, simulcasting on over 115 AM and FM affiliates and streaming audio and podcast, but also the live feeds at Infowars.com, video feeds at prisonplanet.tv. Now, Rand Paul, the senator from Kentucky, has introduced legislation to try to privatize the TSA and to restrict some of their activities. And we've seen other legislation introduced to try to rein them in at the state level. But Texas last year, unanimously in the House, voted to enforce existing laws with groping. The TSA goes in the pants. Evidence by Captain Kirk having to say, Scotty zipped me up last week whenever they pulled his pants down at LAX. This goes on all the time. It's all part of the humiliation. But there's new legislation introduced by Representative Marsha Blackburn, and we're getting her on the line right now. Her assistant just called in, or the press secretary, and she has introduced legislation that we want to tell you about, H.R. 3608, that will make them stop calling themselves officers. And I happen to have a news article here where exactly that has happened. TSA worker arrested for sexual assault. We see this all the time. That was WJLA television. And what they do is they tell women, they pull people over and stuff, and they tell them that they are sworn police officers. They tell people that that they're operating in that capacity, and they're not sworn, they're not bonded, they're not any of that. Look, the feds can't randomly pull you over and stick their hands down your pants. The FBI agent can't. They were always taught that. Local police can't do that unless they think you've stuck drugs or a gun in there in an emergency situation. When you go to the jail, they've got to have somebody of the same sex search you. But now it's just done at the airport. They're raping people. They're caught in pedophilia. Defrock Priest as the head TSA guy in Philadelphia. This is what's happening. It's very scary. And now Congress, Senator Paul is talking about doing something, but we see Representative Marsha Blackburn, hailing from the great state of Tennessee, she is taking action as well and has introduced H.R. 3608, and she joins us now. Congresswoman, thank you so much for spending time with us.
It is so good to be with you. Thanks for having me on to talk about my bill.
Tell us about your awakening to the TSA and what your bill does, and then let's get into some of the overall horror stories that you've investigated with this group.
Yes, my bill actually is an outgrowth of complaints that we were receiving from our constituents. You know, people would go to the airport, they would go through this issue with TSA. TSA would be unprofessional many times, and let me say right here, there are a lot of good people that work with the TSA. We know and understand and appreciate that, but we also know that there are individuals who are not qualified to work with the TSA who are unprofessional in their conduct. But the long story short for me was constituents maybe those who had suffered from different surgeries or had implants of different types, or small children or grandmothers would talk about the very brusque treatment that they thought was just really uncalled for. And so they would come to us with these complaints. I would sit down many times with TSA in Washington and just found that I was getting unsatisfactory answers to the questions that I was asking. And so my staff and I started looking at what was going on with the TSA. And there were a couple of things that we discovered. Number one was that through the rulemaking process, not through legislation, but through the rulemaking process, the TSA had gone about and administratively reclassified their airport security screeners, which are the people who are to be there to assist the traveling public. Now, that's how they're defined in the legislation that was passed that stood up the TSA, airport security screeners, and they're there as a customer service agent to assist the traveling public. What TSA did was to administratively reclassify them. They started this process in 2005, and through the rulemaking, they took TSA customer service reps out of their customer service uniforms, which had, you know, the work shirt or golf shirt with the khaki pants, and it had a TSA patch on it. Well, they removed them from those uniforms, and they put them in federal law enforcement type uniforms, which is what you see them in today, which is the dark blue trousers, the blue shirt, and they wear a metal badge. And Congress did not give them the authority to do this. They did this on their own through the rulemaking. So what we thought was, let's get them out of these uniforms and return them from being called Transportation Security Officer, again, a title that they gave themselves. They deemed themselves this title. And let's return them to being customer service reps and called airport security screeners, and return them to their original uniforms. Because, you know, what we are seeing is that they exercise this overreaching authority, and they are causing hardship for taxpayers who are paying their salary. Now, a couple of other things we found as we were about this investigation was that they have gone to a system of giving awards and advancements, and you'll notice they're wearing epaulets on their shoulders now. If they have one stripe on their epaulette, that means they're an officer. 2 stripes means they're a team leader, and 3 means they're a supervisor. So when you ask someone from TSA what constitutes being called officer, and I bet, Alex, you know that there are people that become police officers, and when you use the term officer in referring to them, that means that they have a certain amount of training and commands a certain amount of respect, doesn't it?
Yes.
And what we found out was what TSA is doing is they only have about 80 hours of training, and then they are allowed to be called officer and wear this uniform. Now, let's say if you wanted to go down to the Nashville Police Department and apply to be a police officer, there are a couple of things you would need to do. One, you would need to meet certain requirements for making that application. They have educational requirements, work requirements. They do a due diligence check on you to be certain that you don't have a criminal past, that there are not components in there that would make you a less than desirable employee. Well, we found out that TSA is not conducting a lot of due diligence because they have many individuals that have committed crimes. Some of them have committed those crimes while they are on duty or while they're wearing their taxpayer-paid-for, government-issued uniform. And we did a report. It's called Not on My Watch. It's available at my website, blackburn.house.gov, or at Facebook, Marsha Blackburn, or Twitter is at Marsha Blackburn. And this report details 50 of the crimes and TSA officers who have been arrested for these crimes. You've got sex, you've got murder, you've got pornography, you've got impersonating a federal officer, there's just a variety of crimes that are there.
Well, Congresswoman, I mean, sure. I mean, I'm a news hound. I probably see every month 30 or 40 of them arrested. So you're being conservative when you show only 50 of the cases of child pornography, raping people, stealing. I saw a report out of New York Daily News a few months ago where they have over 250 things stolen by the TSA every week at JFK. I myself had a gift to one of my daughters when this is about 7 years ago. She was only a few months old. A rattle teething ring stolen. They unpacked the little package from Tiffany's and stole it. So when you say 50 things that you chronicle, that is literally the tip of the iceberg.
Well, you're exactly right. And what we did was just get into 50 of the crimes, and we were astounded with what we found. And you know what is so interesting is since we did that report and made it public and filed our legislation, which is called the Strip Act, Stop TSA's Reach-In Policy. And since we did that, we are hearing from people all over the country about issues and problems and the TSA not following up with them. Some of the things are appalling, and the manner and the way in which they are treating some of our citizens is absolutely appalling, completely uncalled for. So, we're continuing to push through on our legislation. I think we're up over 150 co-sponsors on it now. We have bipartisan agreement and support in Congress that something needs to be done to rein in the TSA. And, one of the things we found that seems to exacerbate the issue with their overreaching their authority is this. They now have unionized these TSA so-called officers. And you've got 46,000 TSA officers, if you will, who are just to be airport security screeners. Bear in mind, not a lot of due diligence is done on their hiring. Washington Reagan Airport, they advertise at discount gas stations in the area and on top of pizza boxes.
No, I know. Let me just stop you for a moment, Congresswoman, because obviously you're spearheading this, and we want to commend you. The bill is H.R. 3608, and in the time we've got left, I want you to be able to cover other areas of this fight and how we get behind you to try to restore this big area of the Constitution that's being violated. But what about the mission creep, more like mission gallop, where right here where I live in Texas, I'm in Austin, but in Dallas, I told people this like a year ago, they didn't believe it. It's finally in the newspaper. I had family that saw it. But now in Houston, they set up warrantless checkpoints on highways and roads, bus stations, train terminals, and they go on buses and they pull cars over. Well, in Tennessee 2 years ago, TSA, quote, inspectors, the Viper teams were out there, and they were commanding a military and local police and the state police with highway checkpoints. So it's happened in your state. What about that? I mean, what about jurisdiction? Even if they were federal officers, since when are they running around out of their jurisdiction? So you got fake officers out of their jurisdiction.
That's right. See, TSA officers have no authority to arrest anybody. If they have a problem at all, they have to do what you and I do and call the police. And what we have seen, these are called the Viper teams that you're referencing, VIPR. They're the Intermodal Preparedness Response Team. Now, these teams, as you said, have been on our highways. What we are trying to do is to return them to the airport to assist the traveling public as they go through the airport. The Strip Act does that because let me tell you something. There is no business. The TSA has no business being on our freeways, our trains, our highways. And, you know, when the FBI or the CIA gets a tip and they're going to go about trying to stop terrorist attacks or to interdict some kind of situation, they are working on actionable intelligence. The TSA just does their searches randomly. They can pull over anybody. They can stop anybody. They can randomly search anybody.
Because they say so, just like they made themselves, just like they made themselves officers. I mean, Congress had to create the FBI. They had to go through an approval process. The states had to be created. They have constitutions. Under city and county charters, they're able, under the law, to hire people that are trained in the Constitution, due process bonded. And then now they just announce themselves God. Look, the only reason I raise this parallel, and I know there's some good people that work there, but that's like saying there's some good people in Nazi Germany. Hitler just created the brown shirts as well. Stalin did the same thing. All authoritarian systems seek to create a new type of goon force outside of the original military and police training system. And that's exactly what I see, Congresswoman, happening here.
Well, it has been of such concern to us. And that is why we continue to go after it. The TSA has no business doing anything but working as airport security screeners in our nation's airport and assisting the traveling public in that regard. And our goal is to get them out of these uniforms, to get them out of these shirts, to get them out of these badges, and to return them to doing that simple task of assistance. We are incredibly concerned with this overreach and this mission creep and the unionization and the lack of regard for the traveling public. And, you know, we just, it's time to put a halt to it. My legislation is the very first step in getting that done.
Yes, ma'am. We've only got about 8 minutes left with you. Again, been gracious to give us this much time. We just want to commend you. We know Tennessee is proud to have somebody up there that will actually stand up for the Bill of Rights and Constitution. That is such a rarity these days. I mean, think of how far the TSA has already, gone. Now I'm sure you know that first they were like, we're going to make dock workers go through us to get a job. And then now we're going to make, I'm sure you saw in New Mexico last year, a judge ruled the TSA had to train the public schools on their security. So it's okay if they come train you. Now you can violate people's rights and put your hand down somebody's pants. William Shatner had his pants pulled down last week. I am afraid to fly with my wife and children just because my daughters and my son have been taught, don't let somebody touch you. And they've had top psychologists come out and say, this is training children so that people like Jerry Sandusky can have their way with them. I mean, how do I teach my children stranger danger, don't let somebody touch you, but now accept these people?
Well, this is one of the reasons we want to put a stop to this. The TSA, bear in mind, the TSA has not captured one terrorist. They have not led to the arrest or capture of one terrorist. And this overreach, all of these machinations that they're going through at the airport, this is also uncalled for. So, we do appreciate the help of people who are going to work with us to get this reined back in. It is, it's just something that we've got to do. It's a step we've got to take before this gets any further out of control.
You're right. I want to get into the lying here because you're up on all of this, but for some of the new listeners, they said 3 years ago, we're not groping children, even though we had hundreds of videos of them even pulling children's pants off and their shirts off, 2 3-year-olds taking babies' diapers off. Then it happened to one of my employees. The Drudge Report linked to it, and it ended up being a national story that became the biggest story in the country for about 3 months. As the TSA started saying, we don't do that, then they said, well, now we're going to stop under 12. Courthouses were doing it in Colorado and Florida until people pointed out it was illegal to do that to under 18-year-olds, so they had to stop. They also had the naked body scanners going in that it's been shown violate federal law here, but also in England. So it's all part of this lawless power grab. But then this year, they were stripping down women, 85, 90-year-old, 95-year-old women, taking them behind closed doors, making old people get out of wheelchairs that can't even walk, making other people help them, screaming at old people. Happened to my grandmother, who's almost 90, flying back from a wedding, screaming at her to move quicker, on crutches. I mean, it's like our induction into a prison or something, a slave training. But what about holding them accountable for the $40 billion that they estimate we lose a year in tourism? The State Department's having to run TV ads in Europe saying, come here, we're not a police state. Well, yes, we are. I mean, I'm ranting here, basically throwing ourselves, on the mercy of Congress. But what about the lying? What about the culture of saying we don't strip search old ladies and then being caught, or we don't strip search children, or there's no radiation from the scanners and they get caught lying? How did the culture of this get so villainous?
I wish I had an answer for you, and I don't know. But I had a constituent yesterday that I thought summed it up pretty well. I was doing a listening session, and they came up to me after it was over, and they said, Marsha, I just got to tell you, they said, I feel like we're looking at a time when it is government run amok, when it is government run wild. And they talked about the TSA videos and these judicial conferences that are in elaborate locations. And they said, I just want to see some government restraint. And another constituent had said, when is Congress going to put some mandates on these bureaucracies and agencies and require them to comply with the law and to act in a responsible manner under the law? And I thought, that's a pretty good question, and it's a pretty good way of summing it up. And I think it is distressing to individuals to see their government and employees of the federal government conduct themselves in the manner that some, not all, but some of these TSA agents who probably, if a thorough background check were done, would not have been hired in the first place. I think it is just so demeaning to individuals to be treated in such a disrespectful manner by some of the TSA agents who raise their voices, who bark out orders, who act as if they're the authority because they're wearing a uniform and a badge. And with my children and grandchildren, I want them to understand that when someone has worked hard and wears a uniform, whether it's one of our men and women in military, whether it's a policeman, a fireman, a highway patrolman, that I want them to show appropriate respect for that individual. And it's, when they are treated so disrespectfully by a TSA agent who should not be wearing that uniform in the first place, it gets to be pretty difficult to make that argument. So we're just going to keep plugging away at trying to move this legislation forward, build support for it on a bipartisan basis, and hopefully be able to return them to working in the airports.
Yes, ma'am.
In a work shirt and trousers with a patch, and look at our traveling public and say, we are here to serve you. How may we assist?
Well, and there's more than one way to skin a cat. We need to support you and others, but there's also letters to the editor calling into talk radio to criticize it, keep the issue on the front burner. And in Houston, they had lawyers get involved and others and point out this is unconstitutional to have anybody randomly searching people, so they had to pull out of Houston.
You're exactly right. And look, what we've got here, I call it the network of you, Alex. And I want people to get on their email list and contact their friends and neighbors and say, this is a great bill. Contact their network. Get people energized. Exactly.
Don't just say, oh, thank goodness that Congresswoman Blackburn is up there, or there's Ron Paul or Alex Jones or somebody, or Rand Paul. We need everybody to do a little bit. Together, many hands make light work. Final question on another subject that just popped in my mind. What do you make of Attorney General Eric Holder and Fast and Furious and the fact that it's come out that they did perjure themselves and that they're now stopping protest against him in front of the White House? I mean, if he doesn't get in trouble for this, does this not really start discrediting the entire Justice Department who's now shielding him?
I think that with the contempt charges that we filed last week, both civilly and criminally, that it does point out that there are some serious problems with the Attorney General and with the conduct that has been exhibited through Fast and Furious. I think you're exactly right on that.
Are you, because you're up there, I know you voted for contempt, are you hearing any rumblings about bringing back what Congress had in the past and exercising the authority to clap him in irons?
We're going to let Chairman Issa, who has been handling this, proceed, and I understand that he's moving forward with hiring a counsel, and when we get back next week, I think the chairman will have an update with us on the progress that he's making.
Thank you. The word I'm getting, though, is that this is shaping up to be a Watergate.
I think that it may, and, I'm going to show the chairman the respect that he has earned and let him be the one to say what's going to be coming next.
Sure, I understand. But obviously, do your constituents raise Fast and Furious to you?
Oh, yes. We talked about that and Solyndra and Planned Parenthood investigation yesterday when I was out with my constituents.
Oh, good. I want to have you back in the next month if you can do it, Congresswoman, to talk about that. That's something else you're doing that's very important. Godspeed. Right. Blackburn.house.gov, blackburn.house.gov. Thank you so much.
See ya. Bye-bye.
All right, there she goes. Man, that was a good interview. I like her. All right, we'll be right back with the next interview, another lady fighting for freedom. All right, we're taking a few calls in this short segment, and then we're going to get into Agenda 21. Since we had her on a few months ago, there have been a lot of big developments. Rosa Koire, people are waking up to it, A, but B, they're cutting down people's gardens in Tulsa, Oklahoma, saying you're not allowed to have that. There's no law. They're harassing Amish people. They're land grabbing. The carbon tax has gone in Australia. They're saying you're not allowed to criticize it. Speaking of Australia, Alex, calling from Australia, is on the air. Alex, welcome.
Hello?
Yes, sir. You're on the air from Australia.
Yeah, look, first-time caller. Loving your passion today, Alex. What can I say? The carbon tax. They had it on, interviewed some business owners on TV, and they said, oh, we're going to get compensated, rah, 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 and they haven't received any paperwork from the government and all this sort of stuff, but most of the people don't want it here.
What is it? 90% or so I've seen in the polls, but hey, it doesn't matter. The bankers want it, so you're going to pay them.
Well, that's it. We don't have a choice, do we?
Well, you could take your country back, but you've thrown out a couple governments, and every new one you get just does it because they're bought and paid for. Just like the Republicans claim they're against Obamacare, written by the insurance companies, but then the Republican votes for it on the Supreme Court because they're bought and paid for. Anything else from Australia?
No, look, that's it. Look, loving your show. Long-time listener, first-time caller. A bit nervous, so... yeah,
don't be nervous with me, brother. God bless you. Keep spreading the word over there in Australia. I want to visit there someday. But with carbon taxes, they say non-essential air travel will not be allowed, and bureaucrats will decide. Just like the IRS will decide if you have the proper insurance. It's freedom. Let's talk to Matt in Texas, listening on 90.1 FM here in Austin. Go ahead, Matt. You're on the air. Welcome.
Hey, Alex. How you doing?
Good, buddy.
Good. Hey, I had a question for you and kind of a side comment as well. They're both about immunizations going on. The question is, I got a 3-year-old, and I guess other than homeschooling her, how can I get around not giving her these immunizations?
I get this call. I get this call every day when we take calls. So I get it 2 or 3 times a week, 4 times a week or so. I mean, it's constant. There is vaccine waiver forms. It's not even a law. It's a regulation. So they trick you and say, get the waiver form, but then they act like that doesn't exist. Type in right now to Google, folks, showing Texas vaccine waiver forms. Texas vaccine waiver forms. Every state has them. There it is, vaccine.info.net. Texas vaccine exemption information. You scroll down, it links to the state of Texas. And there it is, online requests made through the web submission form posted. And what government does, and there's the link, is when they don't have a law, they say, oh, sign this form. And then they administratively try to trick you and then later say they refuse. Just like the TSA announces, we're on highway checkpoints. We're not even bonded sworn police under the Constitution, but we're here, we're God, and we say we can go down your pants. See, I mean, it's just, I just had a congresswoman on telling you that. It's lawlessness. But they got badges, they got guns. Well, I could go put on an outfit and have, you know, a badge and start pulling people over and writing them tickets. You know, the point is that it's fraudulent. And you can debate the government at any level is fraudulent, but this isn't even government. It's lawlessness, sir. Does that answer your question?
That does, but I have one other comment for you. You know, I work here in Austin for a medical software company, and I travel all over the U.S. implementing this software. And one thing that all these states do is they provide what's called vaccines for children. It's for Medicaid-type patients, even some cash pay, where they don't even have to pay for them. They just give them to these clinics and administer them. And that kind of gets you thinking, you know, is this a way they're kind of rolling this out, these cancer immunizations?
Of course. And look at all the cancer rates and brain damage rates and little kids getting epilepsy, narcolepsy. I mean, it's frying their brains. And I got the Rockefeller Foundation documents where they talk about how they do it. There's a reason the general public can't tie their shoelaces. They've been lobotomized with chemical warfare agents. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Well, in the last hour, we had Representative Marsha Blackburn from Tennessee on, who is fighting the TSA, impersonating federal and state police, engaging in violations of due process of law and the Fourth Amendment, and calling these crooks out is what's important. Now, of all the agendas, if you want to know why globally, whether it's Australia or the United States or England or Germany, going back to 1972, blood was taken from everyone at birth secretly, or the parents were told it was a blood test and it was put in the Cold Springs Harbor eugenics facility. It was sent to military bases. I was given documents 16 years ago by a nurse at an Army base in San Antonio who gave me documents. It was classified at the time. And we reported on it until about 4 years ago when they declassified a bunch of it. Now a bunch of lawsuits have been lost. The government's having to back off. They try to... When I told them, when I had my firstborn 10 years ago, I said, I know that's not the law. I know that goes to the health department and is saved and sent to a military base. And they're like, don't be a conspiracy theorist. And I said, you're not doing it. They said, it's the law. And I said, show me the law. I knew it wasn't. And they said, well, your child could have a blood disease. And I said, oh, I'll pay a private lab. Have that guy. I knew the psych warfare attack. Just like the father just called in and said, oh, I can't put my kid in school. You know, it's the law. They got to take a shot. And I'm like, Texas immunization waiver. And it's a waiver to something that's not even a law. And I pulled it up and read it on air. It's all fraud. They have the same waiver thing in Australia, same thing in England. And they put up newscasts saying it's the law. It's fraud. It's criminal fraud. They take your blood. They try to forcibly inoculate. They're now shooting kids up all over the country without parental consent. You realize how criminal it is? But the cops are like, but it's the school doing it under a federal grant. And the grand juries are like, okay, it is illegal to do a medical procedure on a kid that's elective without the parents' consent. They got to get a form to go to the planetarium or the zoo or on a hike at a school function, but you can do this. Again, I harp on this because even though I say it every day, we had a caller saying, they're telling me my son's got to have shots. Well, because they're criminals. They've got the waiver form they're supposed to give you in their cabinet behind them. But they get money federally when they do this. So the reason I'm getting into this, before we go to our next guest, Rosa Koire of Behind the Green Mask, UN Agenda 21, who joins us via video connection if you're watching on prisonplanet.tv. Skype means better audio for radio listeners. Just a little side nugget point is that it's Agenda 21 is the total takeover of the environment, of the land, of businesses, where the globalists write the laws and then selectively enforce them. Nothing to do with the environment. And we, of course, sell Behind the Green Mask, UN Agenda 21, at InfoWarsShop.com or Infowars.com. You get a free citizen rule book and bumper stickers and pins and a bunch of other stuff when you order anything at Infowars.com. And it supports this transmission, but that's a side issue. Every city council person, every cop you know, every bureaucrat, every code enforcer, every county commissioner, every legislator you know, and it's happening just since our guest was on a few months ago. You know, the New York Times is saying, oh my gosh, people are waking up to Agenda 21, we better do something. And, oh, they're putting out primers for local government to know how to deal with you. Because this is UN global governance written by the major mega corporations. You know, just like CNBC said 2 weeks ago, we're ruled by mega banks global governance through fraud. And they want to shut the economy down selectively. So this is the agenda. Now, you couple Agenda 21 with UNESCO, it deals with the medical tyranny, the gun ban that Hillary says Obama's going to sign via treaty. All of this is real and is happening. This is global governance. And her book is the best little 168-page primer that's well-written and well-documented on the full spectrum analysis of Agenda 21 that is about half of the New World Order agenda. This is the bureaucratic, carpet-bagging New World Order takeover in your local area. And I don't care whether you live in Germany or Australia or Canada, it is the exact same operation because it's a UN global governance code. Okay, so you get this to people and you educate yourself and others, it's game over. We can beat them because people understand 83% of the laws in the UK are now made by the EU bureaucracy unelected. It's the same thing. Now, joining us for the rest of the hour, we'll take calls coming up in about 25, 30 minutes. 800-259-9231 is Rosa Koire. ASA is the executive director of the Post-Sustainability Institute. She's a commercial real estate appraiser specializing in eminent domain valuation. That's how she learned it was Agenda 21. Her nearly 30 years of expert witness analyzing land use and property value in her position as San Francisco District Branch Chief of the California Department of Transportation enabled her to recognize the planning revolution sweeping the country. She was on the inside and saw it. While fighting to stop a huge redevelopment project in her city, she researched the corporate, political, financial interests behind it and found UN Agenda 21 impacting every aspect of our lives. UN Agenda 21, sustainable development, is a corporate manipulation using green mask of environmental concern to forward a globalist plan. Rosa speaks across the nation, including recently at the International Conference of Global Governance that included President Václav Klaus of the Czech Republic, Prime Minister John Howard of Australia. She's a regular blogger on her website, DemocratsAgainstUNAgenda21.com. Good to see it's bipartisan. Her new book, Behind the Green Mask, Agenda 21, is available at Infowars.com and on her site. Okay, we go to her now. Intro there. What is Agenda 21 for new listeners? Why is it important? And what are the new big developments? I mean, is it safe to say the battle is joined right now, Rosa?
You said it. I'm actually coming back from an East Coast tour, and I want you to know that the resistance is in gear, and people are out there fighting all over the United States and across the world. So this is a very engaged fight, and we are going to win this. For people who don't know what Agenda 21 is, it's not what is Agenda 21, it's almost what isn't. And you're going to look long and hard to find anything now that isn't Agenda 21. It is the blueprint. It is the action plan to inventory and control all land, all water, all plants, all minerals, all construction, all animals, all means of production, all energy, all information, and all human beings in the world. It is a completely comprehensive plan. It's global, and it's implemented locally. And that is where you're going to see it in your town, right there in your town. It is in every single town all across the United States and the world right now.
Well said. And now we're getting the announcements. They're going to tear up the old roads, shut down the countryside. Folks think they're going to run to the countryside and escape the Agenda 21 takeover. Explain what's really happening there.
Unfortunately, there really is nowhere to go. People come up to me after my speeches and they go, hey, Rosa, so where's the good place to go? And I'm like, nowhere. You have to stay right where you are and fight it in your town because there is no Switzerland in this war. This is a global governance plan, and there is nowhere to go. So what you have to do is recognize it, because it doesn't come with flashing lights, and it's not called Agenda 21. That's how they can say that, oh, you're kind of crazy or a tinfoil hat when you bring it up. But the fact is, what it looks like in your town is your roads being pulverized in your suburban and rural areas. It looks like the closure of post offices and schools out in the rural areas. It looks like your comprehensive or master plan, Vision 2020, Vision 2035, Our Town 2050. That's what it looks like. It looks like smart meters. It looks like smart water, gas, and electric meters. It looks like well monitoring. It looks like closure of roads that go into your rural and wild forest lands. It looks like you not being able to get out into the countryside anymore. And it looks like high-density urban development paid for with your tax dollars right there in the center of your town. This is a global governance plan. It is designed to create a parallel government that is actually going to destroy your opportunity to have any impact at all on what goes on in your government. This is a takeover. It's a totalitarian takeover, and it is happening right now in your town.
And there you were working inside as the district branch chief of the California Department of Transportation. That's how you were first able to recognize this yourself from the inside. But, you know, you're a Democrat. You're somebody who's liberal on many issues. I like that fact because this isn't about Republican, Democrat, where certain groups own certain areas. And I love how these so-called democratic institutions always say there's no global governance, there's no world government, there's no corporatist takeover, it's code for race or all this stuff. When the banks are publicly writing this, admitting this is their takeover plan, and then Democrats hear it and they automatically won't respond. I mean, a lot of Republicans won't because, oh, that's that crazy stuff, when it's really what's happening. It has nothing to do with Republican, Democrat, or, stuff like that. In fact, I saw an article, saying Democrat lesbian feminist draws cheers at Tea Party. When a Democrat lesbian feminist receives wild applause at Tea Party meeting, talking about you, something newsworthy must be happening, speaking to a packed crowd. Look, it isn't about what somebody does in their bedroom. It's about a global corporate takeover of America.
That's exactly right. We have to break that right-left gang mentality because we're really being manipulated. This is not, I'm a Democrat. I've actually been attacked and vilified by Democrats and by Democratic central committees around the United States. The fact is, what are they going to do? Purge me from the party and burn my party card just because I'm questioning what's going on? Because unfortunately, this is being accepted a lot by the left. But it's partly because they don't understand that when they're looking at globalization, when they're looking at WTO, GMO, food independence, great, university debt, school debt, degree inflation, the 1%, domestic surveillance, fusion centers, endless war. This is all Agenda 21.
That's right. Stay there. It's a corporate agenda that transcends party, all of this stuff. This is attacking everyone. We'll be right back with Rosa Koire. Stay with us. Okay.
Right now, the question is, do we all work for central bankers? That's what I want to address to our guest tonight. Is this global governance at last? Is it one world, the central bankers in charge? Jim Iorio, you say we've got some downside here, a correction in the markets. Fine. But aren't we all just living and dying for what the central banks do? Aren't we all just counting on the fact that there's a Bernanke put and that we won't go any lower than, say, 5% down from here?
Of course we are. Because if we look at the economic data, there's nothing to get excited about in that. So yesterday...
And again, that's CNBC, and they go on for 4 more minutes saying we're slaves to foreign banks. But that's a good thing because they take good care of us. And who writes Agenda 21? Goldman Sachs, J.P. Morgan, same folks caught. Barclays CEO quits after caught working in the U.S. and Europe and England fixing interest rates. So they had an unfair trade advantage. CEO of MF Global caught robbing people. And you go look at who funds Agenda 21 and who funds all this. It's the banks. They're the global government. They're it. They're it. And it's weird. You got the Southern Poverty Law Center, the ADL, CNN, Nightline, all saying I'm evil because I say banks run the New World Order and that it's code for racism. And we're not even talking about race here. And then separately, every financial publication is saying world government's here. Thank God the bankers took over. And the articles even laugh and giggle and say, yeah, they took us over. They manipulated us. Isn't it cute? So it's like this weird world where it doesn't exist, but it does exist. And then Agenda 21 is designed, in Maurice Strong and the UN's own words, to shut down society. And I'm supposed to be happy about that. NAFTA and GATT and all of this was meant to destroy us and render us down to slaves. They don't want us uppity. They don't want us consuming. If you go to Whole Foods, there's all these magazines about, you know, the post-industrial and how chic it is to be poor and austerity and how sexy it is. Let's go back to our guest, author and researcher, Rosa Koire. Rosa, what is life under Agenda 21? This is a short segment, long segment coming up, but what will it do? I mean, what are the greatest hits of Agenda 21?
Well, you know what? You're seeing it right now because it's not something out there in the distance. It is happening right now in your town. So are you out of work? Are you feeling like you can't afford to pay your utility bills now? Are you being told that your utility costs are going to be going up like 7 or 9% a year, even though you've been conserving and restricting your use? This is what it looks like. It's going to look more and more. You know, this is the new poverty, right? It's the new frugality. That's what the American Planning Association calls it. And it's supposed to be a good thing, that you don't really need that. We're redefining progress. And then what that means is that you're going to be out of work. You're going to be struggling. You were talking about Australia earlier. Queensland, which is a state in Australia, has now made it so that if you're living in public housing and, you know, government subsidized housing and your apartment is too big for you, you're going to either have to get out of there or take in people that are going to be quartered with you, like the military. I mean, we are talking about a loss of your ability to control your own life. And that's what it looks like under Agenda 21, because you really, truly are seeing your property tax and transportation tax dollars used to restrict your use of your land and used to take away private property rights, restrict you for where you're going to be able to live, what you're going to be able to eat, because you're going to be living in a transit village with a food shed bringing it. And if there's not enough calories that are being produced by that food shed, you're not going to be able to get food from anywhere else. So that means that you're going to be reducing your caloric intake. We are talking about major restrictions, and they are coming your way right now. You're seeing them right now. And of course, this is bank pushed. B of A, Bank of America, is a very big player in this. You'll find huge corporations. It's a mega corporation takeover. Totalitarian. It's a fascist state. Globalization is a totalitarian takeover by corporations mixing in with non-governmental organizations and governments so that you have no way of knowing what's going on.
Amazing. Stay there. I'm going to give you the floor when we come back for about 10 minutes before calls, just to cover whatever issues are front and center on your radar, because you're focused on this, and also to give us the pulse of the public out there. Ladies and gentlemen, we have another powerful film we have available at InfoWarsShop.com, The Greater Good, breaking down the incredible dangers of vaccines and Big Pharma mandating hundreds of new vaccines they want to make you take. And, of course, Behind the Green Mask, InfoWars Shop. You see, the power structure that's hijacked this country, the occupiers, that's who they are. The globalist occupiers, they created al-Qaeda, they funded radical Muslims, and that's the boogeyman of all those countries the globalists are invading that we're told to be scared of, and that's why the checkpoints are everywhere that, oh, the internal training manuals say are for us. People that are anti-UN, anti-world government. Agenda 21, they tell the cops that's a code word. If you hear that, that's a cop killer term. Or if you hear somebody talk about posse comitatus, that's a cop killer term. We've shown you the training manuals here on air. So the cop doesn't know what Agenda 21 is. They just hear that and they go, you want to kill me. This is how they manipulate everybody. So that as they take over, people have already been demonized that are smart enough to know what's coming. But again, what does the UN say? What does Maurice Strong say? What do they all say? Economies are too big. Their job is to shut them down. This is the new economy, where they all live in lavish palaces, though. Remember, you live like a slave. Rosa Koire is a researcher and developer, and she also worked in the state government at the highest levels when she discovered this was going on. I've been talking about it since the mid-1990s. A lot of people have, but nobody knew what it was. Now, because it's really coming into effect, people are getting upset. So Rosa, author of Behind the Green Mask book, Agenda 21, break down other facets, where it's being implemented, examples, and the type of awakening you're seeing, and other areas people should be made aware of. The big UN conference they just had down in Brazil. Rosa Koire.
Wow, well, that's saying a lot. There's a lot to talk about here, and I want people to know that this is war, that there is an occupying force across the world that has taken us over. And we are waking up. There's a tremendous resistance all across the world. And I want you to know that you are not alone. People are taking over and dominating government meetings now. They are going in, we are going in as groups, as coalitions of groups that you would never see ordinarily. Groups of people on the left and the right who are laying aside their petty differences and taking back our sovereignty all across the world. I was speaking at an international global governance conference, and one of the other speakers was President Václav Klaus of the Czech Republic. And he said to me, you know what, we fought to get our independence from the Soviet Union, and now we are under the thrall of Brussels. We are under control of the EU. We have lost our sovereignty. We don't want that here in the United States. We want to encourage all people who want to be free to be free. So here's what happens. This is a global plan implemented locally. What you want to do is take back your government. This is a regional government that is being imposed through planning. They are telling you that if you want to be able to compete regionally in an economic sense, that you have to join with other cities, counties, and states, and you have to erase your jurisdictional boundaries. This is a lie. This is a way to take control of your government by mega corporations and non-profit, non-governmental groups that will then control what happens locally by using money. They use federal dollars, and you know this was a plan that came down, top down, through the President's Council on Sustainable Development, right into every federal agency in the United States back in 1993. And they all changed their policies, their administrative policies, and they are using money. They're using grants, and they're using restrictions on transportation dollars to control what happens in your town. So if your town wants any of that money, they're going to have to play ball. And that means build smart growth. And smart growth is your future hardscape for your poverty. This is high density urban development with no possibility for you to move freely or determine where you're going to live and work. So what you want to do is fight this. Fight it together with everyone you can get. So what you want to do, go down to those meetings where they say, come on down to your Vision 2035 plan meeting, or come on down to your Scenic Byway meeting. We want to see what you think. Because the truth is, they don't want to know what you think. They merely want to give the impression that they're getting your opinion so that they can impose these restrictions on you and say that it was your plan. That is a lie. What you want to do is go down there and take over those meetings. You can do it. You want to recall elected officials who are on those regional boards. These are metropolitan planning organizations and councils of government. You want to get rid of those groups. You want to go down, recall those people. You want to do it in a group. It's very easy to recall an elected official. You can do it. Put that in with your town, recall, and then your city or county, and see what comes up. There's forms online that you can use. You can use our flyers to let people know what ICLEI is. You want to raise awareness. Awareness is the first step in the resistance. Action is the second step. We are fighting back all across the United States and all across the world. And here's the way it looks. It looks like people going down to government meetings where the government has called in men with guns to line the room, and those are police officers. They also are listening to you. They will hear what is going on. You want to speak the truth, take your 3 minutes, stand up and say, we want to kick ICLEI out. We do not want regional government. We do not want to use our property tax and transportation tax dollars to actually create our own poverty. You are using our tax dollars to sink our economy with high-cost trains, high-speed trains to nowhere. They're just sinking our dollars. What they're doing is using endless war to use up our resources and restrict our ability to be independent. This is a plan to create total dependence on government so that you are not able to speak out because you have no voice. We don't want to allow it to get to that point. There are no heroes, no one on the sidelines. Everyone out and fight this plan. You can't wait for someone else to do it for you. This is it. If you're on the left, join in with everyone else This has been a hijacking of the environmental movement. You are being used. There is no truth in the green movement. It is a way to take your money and manipulate you and restrict your ability to live free. Do not fall for these plans. They are simply designed to use jargon to manipulate you and use mind control techniques like the Delphi technique to convince you that this is all a good thing. It is not. It is a way to take over your ability to have an independent voice in your government. So you will find that you are going to be jailed. You will be living in a literal prison. You will not be able to travel freely. You will not be able to work where you wish. You will not be able to speak freely. You will find that your ability to be independent is severely restricted. For instance, in the town next to mine, it's against the law to smoke in your apartment. My county is making it against the law to smoke in your apartment. Obesity will be a crime. More and more things will be crimes, and they will be selectively enforced. This is the way that they take over. This is what it looks like. People who have not lived through a totalitarian takeover do not understand that they're not going to roll through your street with tanks. They don't have to. They're doing it without guns and without tanks. They're taking it, making it, they're misidentifying wetlands. They're restricting your use out there in the rural areas. They're putting more and more restrictions on what you can do out in the Catskills, out in the desert areas, out in Florida, and they are releasing wild carnivores into the wild. They're restricting your ability to use your water. They're using smart meters, smart gas, electric, and water meters, and this is what it looks like. This is what a takeover from the inside looks like. You can fight it. Join the resistance. We're all over the nation, all over the world, and we are fighting now, and we will win this. We are winning now. This is what winning looks like. When they start calling you a tinfoil hat and smearing you in the press, that's when you know you're winning, because they don't come after you unless you have the ball. And we have the ball now. Alabama has passed SB 477, which is the Property Rights Due Process Act, which says that no law can be made that imposes Agenda 21 in the state of Alabama, and that no money can go to ICLEI or any other nonprofit organization that is imposing Agenda 21 on the people of the state of Alabama. Let's make these laws come all the way across the United States. Yes, they'll be litigated, but we will be there supporting. We want to fight back, and we can do it. We will win this.
Rosa Koire, she is the author of Behind the Green Mask, Agenda 21. And as you notice, she's pointed and focused like a laser beam. Her book is as well. Get it out to everyone you know, because this is so outrageous what they're doing. I've been to smart growth conferences, and they admit it's about money and power grabs, and they admit that the insiders are exempt. I mean, I've watched Austin, which is one of the worst places in the country. It's a wonderful place to live, but we've allowed these fake liberals to take over, and they've also got the fake conservatives up there with them, and they will go and take a family's 5,000-acre ranch that they've had for 100 years. I have these people on the show, and take it and pay them maybe 5 cents on the dollar. They waited 6-7 years, took the restrictions off, and the city said, oh, it's not going to be a preserve now. It's going to be malls and high-density living. But it's okay because we're making it high-density living. The point is they stole the land. And all over the country, they are coming in and saying, we're going to bulldoze your neighborhood on this lake. It's for the earth. And then turning around and turning it into a high-rise development. And they know it. It's not like your city council in most cases of a big city is unconscious. They are financed, normally realtors, normally developers. And then they call themselves environmentalists, and all they're going to do is steal your land. And they hire these green cops who don't care about GMO or toxic waste dumping or University of Texas burying toxic waste on the edge of Austin. No. Real issues like Fukushima are no bit. Overfishing, not a problem. It's all about home inspectors in your face, taking over your life. Department of Defense over the rural commission now. It's all about spying on you. It is pure authoritarianism, just as you said, Rosa. Conscious, systematic takeover using fines and fees to bankrupt you. I mean, I know you see the reports of the lemonade stands, the Amish, the people selling, pumpkins on the side of the road getting arrested. And even Forbes asked a few months ago, what's the war about on the Amish or on the lemonade stands? And they've said, we don't want you using cash for garage sales. We're going to shut those down. It's happening, just like what we've seen with healthcare, written by the insurance companies, coming in and making you buy it so the insurance companies can now control the care, but claiming it's socialism when it's something completely different.
Mm-hmm. You know, everyone has to remember, this is an inventory and control plan. So when you find out that, for instance, they're inventorying every single tree in the state of New Hampshire, if anyone's ever flown over New Hampshire, that's all they've got there is trees. The idea that this is a micro plan where they go, you know, we're talking about drones, domestic surveillance, National Defense Authorization Act, USA Patriot Act. We're talking about control of us and every single thing on this planet. And in order to control, you have to inventory. And we are in the inventory phase right now, primarily, although we're moving into control. And that's why people are beginning to recognize that something is really happening. Because when you go, you know, when you're trying to get a permit to build on your property, and you find out, for instance, that you have a wetland there that you had no idea was there, and you're going to have to pay a $37,000 fine every day because of that supposed wetland. You know, that's what happened to the Sackett family of Idaho. And they fought. It went all the way to the Supreme Court. Your federal government fought them all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, where they won. But what did they win? The right to challenge the EPA. So, you know, we are in a situation now where every single person is beginning to feel the pinch, where we're all feeling as if we are under scrutiny. We're noticing that, for instance, if you don't mow your lawn, it's a misdemeanor. You're finding that there are more and more things that are crime, more and more things that you can be held accountable for. And what that means is there are going to be more and more people who will go along to get along, either because they are forced to, because they want to be the good guy, pat on the back, little, you know, insider toady shill with the government, or somebody who just, you know, is too stupid to recognize that they shouldn't be enforcing.
Or they're making money off of it. I want to go to calls.
Yeah. Absolutely. Let's talk about that. There are a lot of people. You know, there are partners. Your government is partnering with nonprofits and corporations. Your government, the EPA, is in 501c3 charitable organizations, literally a partner with, for instance, the American Planning Association, a private corporation, with ICLEI, with the American Farmland Trust, with Walmart, with special interest groups, and you are paying for this. And you are unable to make an impact unless you take this over. We have been asleep too long.
Look, it's very simple. I've seen the cases all over the country where the feds just show up and say, you've had Gore seafood on the South Texas coast for 70 years. We just say you can't have it anymore. We're taking it. No money. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's getting so brazen now where these mega corporations just want to take whatever they want through government. And the crimes are just mounting. I want to go to some phone calls, but I also wanted to talk about some of the horror stories that you've been witnessing as of late. But let's go to a call here. Let's talk to Chris in Texas. You're on the air. Welcome.
Hey, Alex.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, a quick question. I was just wondering if you ever touched any subject about Capitis Maximus. I'm sorry, I'm kind of nervous.
So you have a question on Agenda 21?
Yes, Agenda 21 is Capitis Damnatio Maxima. It's where, if you look at your driver's license, that your name is all in capital letters. I was just wondering if the Fed...
Look, what they do is they just administratively, outside of law, we had a congresswoman on last segment, just do whatever they want. It's called tyranny. There's not a lot to all that UCC all-cap stuff. I mean, you magically put another name on your driver's license. They don't care. But I appreciate your call, sir. Let's go to Nate in California. You're on the air with our guest. Go ahead.
Hey, buddy. How you doing?
Good.
I think everything is really atrocious. I'd like to thank your guest for pointing all this stuff out. I really kind of worry about the clamp down on everything. I really kind of imagine that I kind of foresee that eventually they'll probably start finding people because they're going to go through the trash. They're recycling all the trash that goes to the dump. And I can only imagine that they'll be able to take your name and address and then cross-reference it with, like, the last 4 digits on your on a receipt from a debit card or something like that.
No, so what they have is they have RFID readers that read everything they're putting in all the new products. It's already in England. It's already going into Miami. And then they will fine you thousands of dollars per item and just keep raising the prices. I appreciate your call. We're going to come back and get Rosa's take on that. But that's a big part of it, is that they're going to charge you more for water, more for less, not because there's not water. The combines are buying it all up. They're going to charge you more for energy because they're going to shut down all their competition and then make General Electric exempt. That's why General Electric funds all this. It's a monopoly. It's mafia government. But instead of the mafia saying, hey, you're not allowed to have a grocery store, they just say, oh, it's for the earth. Folks, if paratroopers were landing in Montana or Texas like Red Dawn, people would go grab their guns and they'd go fight them. But if corporate interests come in and over time take over your government and get big government contracts as they gain more power, then you don't know how to respond to it because they've got everybody working for them because they're like body snatchers. It's like The Thing. It comes in and is a facsimile that it's from here, but it's not. But this is a takeover, and they brag like you're idiots in just every publication they put out. Ha ha, our corporate government's taking over. No one's resisting us. Ha ha. And the caller was bringing up their plan to want to kill people. And then I was, bringing up to our guests, some of the examples of the horror stories. But Rosa Koire, that is the rest of the story. Agenda 21 admits in the UN documents, as you know, they want an 80 to 90% world population reduction. So, yes, that is the plan. That's why they're teaching us that we're garbage, that humans are scum through the fake environmental movement.
This is one thing I say, which is really a tough thing to say, and that is that the Nazis did not really lose, because what we're seeing is the re-erection of that kind of government, that kind of philosophy, that kind of all for the common good. That is communitarianism. And what we're seeing, especially Siemens Corporation, which was a German corporation about to go bankrupt before Hitler generously supplied them with slave labor from the concentration camps, Siemens pushes Agenda 21 big time. Sustainable community strategies, they give awards, they give grants. We're talking about IBM. They also collaborated with the enemy during World War II. They made it possible for the Germans to be able to know who was in the camp.
IBM invented computers for race mixing studies.
Yes, and all those punch cards and the computers that the Germans had came from a wholly owned subsidiary of IBM there in Germany. Also GE, which also collaborated with the enemy during World War II. And GE makes huge, these are the companies that are really pushing Agenda 21.
Because they're exempt from the carbon taxes. Obama signed it. Let's jam in a call. David in California, you're on the air. Do you have a question for the guest?
I do have a question. I was at our city council last night.
Good.
One of the corporations that they're building the stack and pack housing, they actually appointed the director of it to our planning commission. Only 2 people in the city showed up to contest it. I moved from Los Angeles, Lancaster, California. I was running away from this stuff. They're stealing land left to right, and the control grid is already in place there. They also went over the plans of the new security systems downtown. My question is, how do you stand up to these people just by yourself?
Well, they're total criminals, but go ahead.
It's tough. You can do it, though, and you are doing it. You went. You were there. Now, here's what you do next. You get out, go to your computer, and you make up a flyer. We've got flyer examples on our website, which is Democrats Against UN, agenda21.com, and also in my book. You want to make up flyers. I know this sounds like it's not going to work.
No, it works. Listen, you battle, then more people will join you, and then you go into the next phase.
Yes, and you want to raise awareness. This is what your job is now. You are in the resistance. Your job is to bring awareness out there to your town. Get a flyer out there, make it look official, notice this is going on in our town. Get out there, put those flyers on doorsteps, get more and more people to go to those meetings. You want to bring them down by telling them that we will not stand.
And by the way, we're beating them all over the place if we'll just resist them, because it's so, just like he said, the head of the local building operation that's getting taxpayer money is putting their people on the board. I mean, that's all. It's, look, conflict of interest, all of this, defeat them.
You want to expose the collaborators.
I like your nomenclature. That's it. You are the resistance. Expose the collaborators. Incredible. I tell you, I'm sorry to all the other callers. We'll have to have you back up very soon. This hour has now elapsed. Thank you, Rosa Koire. The book available at InfoWarsShop.com. Get it. Get it out to everybody in your area. Expose the collaborators.